And we're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. Today, we're focused on Star Trek, the original series, The Naked Time. And I'm joined with Fathery, and possibly the Doctor and Emma will will join us. They may be disembodied, or they may be in the chat. We're not sure. And we might have a few more surprise guests. Starfleet Boy is starting to get known for these like surprise guests that
just anyone can beam in at any moment.
At any moment, it's true. We already have a lot going on in the chat, Father. So I just want to welcome Continuum Trek. I don't know what you're talking about, Conti, but I meant no sarcasm at all. I love you. And then Ravi's here, and so is Daniel. And Daniel says that in Chicago, here, I'll put this up. Here in Chicago, they show TOS episodes every Saturday evening. Last weekend, they restarted the airing cycle with the Man Trap. So that's cool. You're here on our discussions, and then you get to go watch these episodes.
Yeah, he's hearing us talk about them first, I guess, because we're
it's true.
Ahead of that. But
it's true indeed. Well, anyways, Father, do you want to do the episode summary for? By the way, we have lightning and inclement weather here. So if anything happens, take the con.
You have like lightning and thunder every day in Florida, though, right?
We really do. It's kind of gnarly. It's true. We really do. But do you want to do the summary, or should I do it?
I'll do it.
Yes.
But basically, this is a story all about how. It sounds like I'm doing the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. It's a story all about a virus being brought aboard the Enterprise, and it is undetected at first, but is spreading throughout the crew, and it has the unusual characteristics of making people behave intoxicated, like alcohol, is how Dr. McCoy describes it. But basically, it makes you kind of just act a little crazy, and it pulls something from like your inner feelings forward. Like we see Spock have an emotional breakdown because he has to deal with a lifetime of suppressing his feelings and emotions, and we see Sulu run around with a sword attacking people because
he thinks he's D'Artagnan. Actually,
he read too much Three Musketeers, I guess. And we see Kevin Riley, who is only in 2 episodes, but he is apparently Irish, even though he doesn't really sound Irish. But he takes over the ship so he could sing what he describes like an ancient Irish song and demand ice cream for everyone and a dance in the bowling alley.
Riley's a lot. I have to admit, I really loved Riley. I have a whole section planned for the discussion on Riley, but go on. You're doing a great job at the summary, by the way.
The tension of the episode comes from the fact that they're in orbit of a decaying world that is about to be destroyed, that it's about to like crush itself under its own weight and fall apart, and that the destruction that would be unleashed from that would destroy the Enterprise if they remain in orbit, and they need to leave, but a drunk Irishman messed up their engine systems, and the clock is ticking for the captain to try to get control of his ship with his crew going crazy, and for Dr. McCoy to find a cure to stop this madness. And in the end, they are able to pull it off by using a rare, or no, it was untested, completely untested
formula.
Or good Star Trek technobabble right here, mixing matter and antimatter together cold. And in doing so, they're able to leave orbit right in the nick of time, and they all get cured from Dr. McCoy, and they all live happily ever after.
It's true, very true. Welcome, Emma and Hubbard. I'm so glad you're here. I know you guys are not at tip-top Bristol fashioned ship shape and Bristol fashion there, but we appreciate you coming on.
No problem.
Did you guys hear the summary that Father gave by any chance?
No, but we watched it last night, so we're pretty fresh.
Nice. Okay, cool. So we just ended on the time warp formula, and I want to talk about that because that's like directly responsible for Star Trek: The Voyage Home. The reason they can travel back in time is the same. Spock uses the same formula. That whoa! Did you guys hear that?
Yeah, that was loud.
That's really
I
loud.
like.
That's the probe. From Star
That's
Trek
the
4.
whale probe. The whale probe is here. It's very angry. But anyways, it's the same formula, which I thought is so cool that I forgot that little factoid, and I don't think we discussed it.
Is it though? Is it the same formula? Because
I'm pretty sure it's the same formula.
I think he's using the formula from what is it? Tomorrow is yesterday.
Yeah, you're correct.
I'm so wrong.
Because
Go around the sun, break away.
going around the sun, yeah.
Slingshot thing.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there's more than one time warp formula, I guess.
Yeah.
Could this formula have like been improved upon in that episode, and then it's the same formula anyways? Can we just say that? Like, could it be the same? No,
It's your show. You can say whatever you want. But,
Yeah. I have my own theories on like time travel and the intermixed formula and
Go for it.
well, I think they actually were writing this. I've never read this anywhere, but I'm assuming the intention was that we could come up with this thing at the end of this episode and then use it in later episodes to tell time travel stories. And
was time warp a reference to Rocky Horror Picture Show? Had that come out?
no,
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think that was probably taking it from Star Trek, if anything.
From Star Trek, probably.
Yeah.
But when we see Assignment Earth in season 2, where they go back in time to study the 1960s and meet Gary 7, I think they were using this formula then. And if you're trying to like figure out how does it all work like continuity wise with the rest of Star Trek, I think that this was before the temporal prime directive was established, where they expand the non-interference directive to time travel as well.
Interesting. Okay.
But that's just all my like headcanon.
I like it.
Your theories and everything.
Sounds good.
Headcanon, yeah, it sounds good to me. So all for it. I like that. All right.
I
So
think we're all in favor of it. Yeah.
Starfleet Boy just learned something. By the way, Daniel missed the summary. That's okay. You can go back and watch it, and then you'll be caught up in no time.
Yes.
I keep seeing Starfleet Boy, PJ, and Tech Trek videos all the time, and I love watching them. Thank you. I somehow relate to this virus. I don't know why. We can all relate to this virus.
That stupid guy, just like take off his gloves and don't feel like wearing it.
That's
Joey, right?
Keep your masks on, guys.
I actually met that actor one time.
No way.
Yeah, and I asked him, and I was like, how old was I? I was like 15, I think. But I asked him, I said,
Stuart Moss, by the way.
Why would a guy like not have like Starfleet training to know like not to pull that glove off and then like rub your face like that? And he's like, you know what? I thought the same thing. And I said something to the director, and I was like standing there with like this shower curtain on as my spacesuit, and he's like, no, we just got to do it how it's in the script. So it is.
You know what's curious is I just like 10 minutes before we went to air, I finished reading the novelization, and the whole story is completely different. And I'm not sure if the novelization is just the author trying to explain away things like what you just mentioned, like things that just don't make sense.
Is the writer of the novelization John Black?
Blemish,
yeah.
isn't it?
Blish.
Blish.
Yeah.
Blish.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if Blish was working off of like an original, maybe he was working off a screen treatment like before the actual script they used. But his whole thing involved that the how it got on the ship is that Spock and Joe actually bring back a sample of water from the starbase.
I think he's like Lieutenant or something. Tormlin.
Yeah, Lieutenant Tormlin, and that's how it gets on the Enterprise. It's not spread from you don't have that scene where he takes the glove off and you get the little rattlesnake noise and you see the little blood thing get into him. Like that's not in a novelization at all. It's actually spread through a waterborne agent that they bring back in a sample from the away mission. So it's a little different, and he goes into great detail about how water. It's this water that was. McCoy goes into detail about how water is stored in cacti, and it was water they didn't even realize was in the sample, and all this scientific stuff. It's actually very different than the show.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's worth a read just to get that angle.
A lot of stuff is kind of like in the novels, they do a lot of things that they maybe didn't have time for on the TV show or didn't have like the budget for. Like I know the novel of the Cage when Pike is holding the Telosian like around the throat and it turns into that Bigfoot looking ape monster thing. Like in the novel, it's like described as like a much more exotic creature. I don't know what, but it's like a giant spider or like something that you never would have been able to do on the budget. And
yeah, it's like a half man, half spider kind of thing.
Yeah,
you're right.
And I think like when Vina is an Orion slave girl, it describes her as being like fully nude, which of course they wouldn't have been able to do on TV. So.
Yeah, actually, you're right about that too. Yeah.
Well, you could do it now on streaming services. It's totally okay.
Yeah, they've on boobs on Star Trek Discovery.
And we saw Orion bums. Is that bum? But it's like the official Starfleet Boy word.
Yeah,
I guess we'll use bum. Bum's a cool word. I like that.
It's much more common. It's a more common word in the English-speaking world outside of the United States.
I love this. I don't know if you guys can see the quarantine suit or whatever, the hazmat suit that Spock's wearing. I just really love the design of it because it looks like it has a technological component, those like interlinking rings. I imagine they are creating a low-level field that also protects them. But of course, all the technology in the world can't save you from incompetence, such as exhibited, sadly, by Tomlinson or Tormlinson, who just takes the glove off and then wipes his nose and then keeps working without the glove. And why wouldn't you just wipe your nose with the glove? Like, it's just so bad. It's so terrible. Yeah. But this is how pandemics start. And I feel like it's true. The Enterprise fortunately had Dr. McCoy, and he was able to inoculate the crew right on time.
And we should have him to develop our vaccine right now. It's real fast.
I have to say, I mean, 300 years in the future, you could probably develop a vaccine in a day. But our best efforts at the moment, the government in Russia is claiming that they have a vaccine that's working and it's already being put out. But as far as like on the rest of the planet, it seems like it's not going to be for the rest of the year. So we'll see.
They're just saying they don't want to share it with anyone.
I think it's being, I don't know. I see, this is where Starfleet Boy's ignorance, I shouldn't even have mentioned it, is so bad.
The Russians are probably lying anyway.
Oh no.
Yeah, they're lying. We just lost all of our Russian viewers on Starfleet Boy.
We can't tell. We did
actually a paid Russian bot.
Okay. Me too sometimes.
I'm waiting for the bank to open in Moscow so I can get my direct deposit.
Oh boy.
You should tell the story about the Russian dog that your mom met.
Oh my God.
We gotta save the Russian stories for when Chekhov arrives.
Yeah, save that for season 2.
Okay.
You can't tell Irish stories though, because we did have a rather blatant characterization of an Irishman, an Irish person.
A racist and sexist Irishman.
I did like that he didn't do like the really terrible like American attempt of what an Irish accent is. Like the episode Fairhaven of Voyager, where they all talk a bit like this, and it just isn't quite how an actual Irishman would talk. But Americans seem to think that that's how you do it.
Lucky Charms.
Oh my
My lucky charms.
The Irish Trekkie, by the way, I want to give a shout out to the Irish Trekkie, Damien, who just put out a really cool electric guitar rendition of the opening theme for Star Trek Lower Decks, and it's on Twitter,
Cool.
and you can check it out. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But
The actor,
yes,
the actor of Riley did that.
No.
no. The Irish Trekkie
Oh.
is a YouTuber and a person who is really cool in the Star Trek Twitter verse.
Oh, God.
Is the
Yeah, you guys are not on Twitter. You're not hip to what's
no,
going
we're
on.
not on Twitter or on Lower Decks. Is the theme song cool though?
It is really cool. Yeah, I'll
Alright, I'll
send you a
I'll
link.
check out the theme song.
Is the actor for Riley still alive?
I
know.
didn't check. I didn't do a good job. Let me go look while you guys.
Database boy, what are you doing?
This
I believe. Well, I take that back because I might be misremembering.
Bruce Hyde is the name of the actor, and sadly, he died in 2015 on October 13. He was born in Dallas, Texas. Tex Trek,
Yes.
little Dallas pride here,
Oh, nice.
and he perished in Saint Augusta, Minnesota. So he went from there to there.
Yeah, he died around the same time as Leonard Nimoy. Is what I was thinking. I wasn't sure if I was
Oh.
remembering that right, but
He was also on the Beverly Hillbillies, the 1960s version. He didn't do anything until 2010 after The Confession of Lee Harvey Oswald, and he was playing a mysterious man. So I haven't seen that production, but he does appear in 2 episodes of the original series. He'll be back in the Conscience of the King.
Do
Playing
we
the
know
same-
why the character didn't appear more often in Star Trek? Riley?
I don't know why.
yeah, I
Audience.
think
Audience, help us out here.
there were just there were a bunch of characters they threw in season 1. I think they were just seeing like which ones stuck, which ones they were going to keep around. They also have Yeoman Rand famously appears a lot in early season 1 and then kind of like disappears. And I think it just could have been it could have been Sulu or Uhura or Riley or Yeoman Rand or Nurse Chapel. It's just like, we're just going to throw all these characters out there and then, oh, well, we don't really need this person. Or, yeah, maybe this other person is really great and we should throw them into more episodes in the future. It's just, whatever's stuck is whatever's stuck.
Interesting. Oh. Yeah, because I have to admit, of the, I guess, out of all these semi-regulars, I guess if you want to call them that, I thought Riley was probably the most well-known, just because of his singing. And he makes a memorable impression.
Yeah. For a guy who's only
Yeah.
in 2 episodes, he's very memorable. Like, I remember being surprised when I learned that, when someone pointed out to me years ago, like, yeah, Riley's only in 2 episodes. I was like, no, he's in like 3 or 4, isn't he? And I had to think.
A little sidebar update. From what I understand, the Russians are offering their vaccination up to be tested by different governments. But from what I also understand, it's more of an anti-serum made with antibodies. That's from Pop Culture, Caleb. So welcome to the chat, and thank you for that update. We're going to take that as canon. We also, back to Riley, I'll take you home again, Kathleen. And then later on, they're singing a version of it to Janice Rand.
Is that a real Irish song? Because I mean, like, I've been to Ireland. I've spent a lot of time in like a lot of pubs listening to a bunch of musicians, and I've never heard that before outside of the Star Trek episode. We want to think about it in other TV shows, I think, but I've never heard it in Ireland, which is where I would think you would hear it if it was really an Irish thing.
Have you been? So you've traveled to Ireland?
Yeah.
Lucky duck. I've dreamed to go to Ireland. My a dear friend of mine.
It's the most beautiful country in the world, and I want to move there.
Oh wow, cool. I actually wanted to move there for a while too. Ireland was taking people. They were at one point in the 90s, I believe. Ireland had a deficit growth in population and needed people, and I missed the opportunity. Apple has a campus in Ireland, and I could have pursued that.
It's in Cork, I think.
Yep. And
This-
we're really going in this Irish tangent, but why not? Ireland's very cool. I should have.
I looked up.
Oh,
sorry,
go ahead.
I looked up the song "I'll Take You Home Again, Kathleen," and it's a popular song written by Thomas P. Westendorf in 1875. Music loosely based on Felix Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto in E flat minor. Spite of its German American origins. It's actually German American.
Yeah, I knew it.
It's widely mistaken to be an Irish ballad. And also when I googled it, like the thing that came up first is the Bing Crosby version. Bing Crosby is Irish descent, right?
Hey Siri, play "I'll Take You Home Again, Kathleen" by Bing Crosby. Let's see if it actually.
Playing "I'll Take You Home Again, Kathleen."
Oh wow, it's actually playing. Do you guys hear it?
Yeah.
Sounds lovely.
That's awesome. Hey, Bing Crosby and Denise Crosby. Isn't Bing Crosby Denise Crosby's grandfather? And that's the version of Blue Skies we hear in the beginning of Picard. So it's all very.
And also Johnny Appleseed in The Trouble with Edward.
That's right. You're absolutely.
Bing Crosby is a much better singer than Kevin Riley. Just want to point that out.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Hey, Siri, stop. We'll get a copyright strike if. Hey, Siri, stop.
The Bing Crosby estate will.
I think we talked over it enough that it's legal.
Denise Crosby herself is going to be knocking on your door like, "Where's my money, honey?"
I was supposed to meet Denise Crosby on Sunday. She was doing a meet and greet through the Dramaversity, which unsolicited plug for the Dramaversity, which is pretty cool. They did one with Gates McFadden that I attended, and she did more of like a little, a 1 hour master session, if you will. Gates McFadden talked a lot about the craft of performance and acting, and her experience. Delightful. And I was supposed to attend the Denise Crosby one, but the wider audience doesn't know, but you guys know my uncle passed away on Sunday, so I didn't think it was appropriate to attend when I was just fresh in my morning, and so alas, I did not attend. But they were so kind. They asked me if I wanted to ask her any questions anyways, and unfortunately I didn't see the message on time, but that was very cool. And I just wrote and said, I hope Denise Crosby does it again, because it broke my heart that I couldn't attend her meet and greet session. So cheers to that. I only have water, but cheers to that anyways.
Back to the episode, I think the pretty much the big moment that just stays in the memory. There's two big moments that stay in the memory, and one is obviously when Sulu, comes out, shirtless with the foil, and he's all, fencing glory. I think that's probably one of the most memorable moments in the entire show. I mean, once you see that, you're like, wow, what's going on here? He's great in that scene, and later when he takes the bridge and everything. And then the other highlight of the episode for me is Spock when he starts breaking down, and I really watching it last night, I was just so impressed with his physical performance. The mannerisms that the actor employed to show how Spock was trying to contain his emotions, and how he was speaking about not being able to tell his mother that he loved her. I thought that was just so sad, and it's just something that doesn't leave you.
This episode's really cool because I feel like these kind of like really deep dives into these characters' inner selves were kind of like essential elements of them that stay throughout their journeys in, at least with this crew, throughout Star Trek. That like dynamic, you see it later. You remember that, and then you see that kind of dynamic in the performances later when you do meet Amanda, and then it's just kind of carried on in the background, and it like informs your feelings, I think, about Spock throughout the whole series. That I think that was definitely a moment. I did like a last minute research tweet asking folks what their top moments were, and the ones you get the most, the ones that came up the most were like Spock's, that scene, the scene where he breaks down. And for me in particular, I think that scene's really beautiful because it starts with Nurse Chapel in sickbay, and so there's two, like it starts with her like just expressing her like love, and she's like, I don't even know why, but I love you so much, and he can't reciprocate. And I just thought it was just such a well acted scene, and you realize how much all of the actors are giving to this. The other scene that I think stood out for me, and I kind of realized watching this again now, that it like really made an impression on me. I don't have a ship like the Enterprise, but I remember as a kid feeling really strongly about Kirk's true love, until Antonia, of course. But the Enterprise, his reveal in that scene was very powerful, I thought, as well, and I really liked it. By the way, Father's girlfriend's name is Antonia, which is really cool.
Oh, wow. Yeah, Kirk's his whole thing where it's like he loves the ship, but at the same time he feels trapped by the ship. The comment at the very end when he kind of reaches out his hand to Gilman Rand, and what is it he says? The thing about walking on the beach. He realizes that he sacrifices a lot to be the captain of the Enterprise. And of course it brings to mind Carol Marcus in Star Trek II when she tells him why she didn't tell him about David, and she basically says, I wanted David in my world, not yours.
Right.
And I think that has a double meaning. It's not so much that she didn't want David in Kirk's world. I think deep down inside she knew that Kirk would not have had room for David in his world, in the sense that he really wouldn't have been able to love him as a father figure, because his first love is the Enterprise, is the ship he's commanding. So it's not so much that she was being, and it took a long time for me to realize that, it's not so much that she was protecting, that she was being like, no, I wanted David in my world because I'm being selfish. It's that I think she realized back then that Kirk really was ready to make that sacrifice of, I'm not going to be close to anyone because I need to be in command of this ship. The responsibility of commanding whatever ship it is paramount, and that's what she was protecting David from. Because obviously, as a child, that would have been a problem. She didn't want David to go through that. It's better to just not be with the dad at all. For that being said.
The other scene that came up a lot was the Sulu scene, which we already mentioned, but also I think that's just, I just felt like the thing that like really kind of struck me about this episode was all the I agree with, I think it was Daniel in the comments said masterful performances, and it's true. I think everyone was giving their all in this episode. Like George Takei is amazing in those.
Can I say something about that? About
yeah, absolutely.
That originally the script called for Sulu to run around with a katana and act like a samurai, which George Takei was like, okay, well, I mean, that kind of makes sense. I'm a Japanese actor playing a Japanese character, but he told them, well, but look, like when I was a little kid, growing up, and I'd run around with a stick and like play sword fight, I was never thinking samurai. I was thinking like the European stuff, and like I think he might have cited like Three Musketeers as an example. And he's like, give me a rapier or something. And he like to like talk them into this. He's like I know how to do like that type of sword play. Like I know like a little bit of fencing and stuff. And he was just lying to them. And they're like, oh, well, if you know how to do that, then of course. This was like on a Friday. They were going to start shooting on a Monday. So over the weekend, he had to find somewhere where he could go take lessons.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Which apparently you could find, in Hollywood when they're shooting all these different movies.
Yeah, I bet, especially stage fencing is probably something that's
Yeah.
like a big thing. Yeah, it's true.
When he puts out there and he has like the hand back and the technique and everything, like he had just learned that stuff.
His form's pretty good. I fenced for almost 9 years, and Doctor remembers when I was fencing, I think.
Yes.
And I tried to find my foil. I was going to use it as a prop for this episode, but I wasn't able to find it. It's buried somewhere deep here, or it's in storage or something like that, which is sad. But it wanted me to make this episode wanted me to made me want to take up fencing again, which would have been cool.
You have to do it with your shirt off and be all greased up, though.
It's I have a whole different look. Sulu is what I would consider like a twink, and I'm more of a bear, so it would be a different vibe, I think. But yeah, I could totally do that.
It's like Rutherford was in the bear pack on Lower Decks.
Yes, I'm in the bear pack.
I think there's a bar called the Bear Pack here in Austin. But the other thing about the Sulu stuff is when he takes her well, I guess he's trying to rescue her. Where he's like, "I'll save you." He calls her.
Like, I'll take neither. She's like, "I need neither."
No,
Right. Yeah.
Sorry, neither, because he called her fair maiden, which basically means like white virgin, and she's like, "No, I'm neither one of those things."
That's funny.
That was something that like Nichelle and Gene Roddenberry came up with. I can't remember like which one of them, but like, oh yeah, like we totally like sneak that in there because no one's gonna catch it.
Very nice. I love that I didn't realize how much input the actors seem to have, or lack of input, but that's pretty cool. Like
one too. Like Leonard Nimoy said, you just put the camera on me, just let me be alone in a room and let me.
That's true.
That was all real. That was all real. We have a question. Daniel wants to know: has anyone read the novel Ex Machina? Riley appears in there to help the Yonadans. I have not.
Yeah, Riley shows up as a character in a number of the novels, especially the ones set in between the original series and Star Trek: The Motion Picture. I think he's like Kirk's attaché. Like he's like when Kirk is flying the desk, he's like his chief of staff or something. But he's an admiral, and he's in a couple of the comics as well. So Riley has a pretty extensive, I guess you want to call it. I don't know what you want to, like beyond the canon. A memory beta. He's got a pretty extensive listing. So yeah, Riley has quite a bit of life to him beyond the show.
Robbie says, imagine a Kelvin-based TOS style series. It would have. I think that would have been awesome at some point. But I'm all in for Strange New World. So I feel like that's okay. We'll get a whatever you want to call it, the Discovery era style TOS series. But yeah, it would have been interesting to see a series like that. Although I feel like all those performers in the Kelvin movies, they're all screen actors, and I don't know if they have time to do TV on a regular basis either. And I kind of want them to be the ones that come in. But you could definitely expand the Kelvin timeline. I thought of something when I was watching. The Kelvin movies seem to be kind of like these big versions of kind of like original series episodes, and we were talking about this last night that there was there's an abandoned or seemingly abandoned idea that was being thrown around for the next Kelvin movie, Star Trek 13, 14? 14. It would be a virus, type thing. And so I wonder if there would have been like a lot of, if the script had nods to this episode in it. And we haven't talked about the Naked Now, which is the sequel to this episode. It's a direct sequel to this episode in a weird way. And I like this. Earlier, Chris said that he liked this episode more than the Naked Now. And I have to admit that even though I like the Naked Now a lot, there's so much lightning, guys. It's like, right. Watch. Did you guys see the flash? Okay, so
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Someone doesn't like the
Naked Now
guy Cthulhu doesn't like me talking smack about the TNG era, but
I'll talk smack about the TNG era.
Go for it, man.
I mean, you're taking a TNG season 1 episode and you're comparing it to the original series season 1 episodes. I mean, like TOS season 1 is some of the best Star Trek ever, whereas TNG season 1 is some of the worst. Like, no, like that's that episode is not great. But they tried to do the same thing with both of them, which I think is weird. Because the idea with both is they were both like the third episode of the show in like the broadcast order, right?
Yeah. I think Naked Now is the second episode, wasn't it? No,
it's like third or fourth.
We did the Man Trap, and then with Naked Time we did the Man Trap with the original series, and then Charlie X, and now.
And then the next one would have been Where No Man Has Gone Before. This is actually the 4th episode air date.
Oh, okay.
But so audience, just so you know, we did Where No Man Has Gone Before as a second pilot episode of Starfleet Boy. So we went out of order, but now we're in order. So this was a weird one.
In both cases, though, they tried to present this episode early on to show the audience all these characters that you're just getting to know. What if we have them all act really weird? And then you could kind of get an idea of how each one of them is supposed to behave. But it kind of doesn't work if you're less familiar with them, because then you don't really understand how uncharacteristic it is for Spock to cry or Data to get laid if they're all like new characters to you.
Well, I think what the original series did better is the Next Generation. Is I think they kind of followed up on what they laid down. Like the whole Spock thing obviously gets explored further in the show, and also Kirk. But with Next Generation, the problem with Next Generation is that they just didn't follow up on a lot of the things they laid down in the Naked Now. I mean, certainly the whole Crusher Picard dynamic just kind of whittled away, and I mean, Tasha doesn't even make it past what she dies in season 1, right?
I've always thought that both this episode and the TNG episode are designed to kind of like there's a level of formality that all these characters have that they can't break because they're in the in Starfleet or whatever. And I think that both of these episodes serve to like give you a glimpse into what they're like, to make them more relatable in a sense. And I think it works on that level from like a empathy perspective. I think it really works. I don't know. What do you guys think of that?
I think the humor works better in this episode, and I also think the tension is greater. And I think that this is also a little scary at times. Like, it's creepy when they first beam down and they find like these dead bodies and stuff, and then when you have like the insanity dialed up on the ship, it definitely conveys more heightened danger to all this than I ever felt in the TNG episode.
I want to talk.
I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, the horror element again. I think we mentioned that in prior conversations where these early episodes of Star Trek have this element of horror. We mentioned in previous conversations how examples of science fiction shows that were on the air prior to Star Trek, like The Outer Limits and The Twilight Zone, emphasized horror mixed with the sci-fi, and I think we're continuing to see that. I mean, Spock has that line about space madness, as opposed to just planet-borne madness, I guess. So, yeah, I think Fowler is right. I mean, the whole idea that there's horror in this episode, and I think it's very intriguing that these early episodes have that undercurrent of horror. The Next Generation did not embrace that at all. Next Generation wasn't very interested in that. It was a different flavor, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why their version of the naked, whatever, the space madness, just didn't work. I think the original series was willing to go with the horror, but Next Generation wasn't. They didn't feel
Daniel's
safe going there.
comment supports you here. What distinguishes this episode in TOS for me is that the idea, drama, and humor is original. In the TNG version, I get the I've seen this before feeling.
Well, George Takei has some thoughts on that.
Ooh, please.
And you got to keep in mind that with like the original series actors, when they were doing the movies in the 80s, and they started making a movie every 2 or 3 years, of course, like the cast, they were asking for a bigger and bigger paycheck each time, and around the time that they were getting
Don't say no, there's no money in the future.
Well, they lived in the 20th century, so that didn't really help. But when they were getting to doing Star Trek 5 and Star Trek 6, they were continuing to ask for I want more money than I had last time, and I think there is starting to get some concern of these actors are getting too expensive. We might need to replace them. We might need to stop doing original series cast movies, or not bringing everyone back because we can't afford all of them. And so there's some concern amongst those actors with that, and they were very unsupportive of the Next Generation, largely because they were they're going to bring in all these new people and try to replace us, and you can't do that, and it can't be Star Trek unless it's all of us. And the concern that George Takei had was he was saying that you shouldn't even call this Star Trek, just make it something else. And he said this episode specifically, the Naked Now, I always get them confused. But
the Naked Time is this one that we're talking about, but the Naked Now,
the Naked Now, the TNG version of it. George Takei said that watching that was like watching little kids putting on their parents' clothes and pretending to be grown-ups.
That's great. That's a great line. Wow.
You guys can go watch our TNG discussion about the Naked Now. I liked it a lot more than George Takei did at the time. I'm sure he might revisit it.
And I'm glad they come around. They're not like that animosity died down.
Yeah,
they did Star Trek 5 and Star Trek 6 and gave those people their send-off. And
it's nice to
they brought George back on Voyager.
They did, which, by the way, Robbie, who is here, was saying that he's watching Voyager, and I recently started watching Voyager for the first time. It's better than I thought it would be. Same here. I've now made it past I never made it past the beginning of the 4th season in my previous attempts to rewatch it. I've finally broken the Great Barrier of the 4th season, and it's like a hell of a ride from there on. It's really great. I totally had I had so many terrible reasons for not watching Star Trek Voyager, and I feel bad now because it's really, really good stuff. And that was the actual episode that kind of got me to give Voyager another chance, is the episode where Tuvok journeys back into his mind to go back to time when he was on the Excelsior with Captain Sulu. So yeah, that's a great. And speaking of Rand, there was a little bit of discussion about Yeoman Rand. She's also, and we've talked about this before, she's the first officer in that episode as well. So it's pretty cool. And she's the first officer in Star Trek 6 where we get that established from as well. So which is pretty cool.
Question for the both of you. What do you, since we had 2 Star Trek shows with the space madness. Would you have liked to have seen this continue? Like if Deep Space Nine had done the naked again, Voyager would have done the naked out there.
I thought of this. I thought of this when I was a kid, when I was trying to write like what my Star Trek show would be. Because I basically wanted to like grow up and have like Rick Berman's job, which I guess Alex Kurtzman ended up with it instead of me. But like my idea for like my Star Trek show, and that was going to be like another 100 years after the Next Generation, where it was going to be like the new Enterprise with a new captain and everyone. And there was going to be an episode called The Naked Future, which would have been like
that's a great one.
Again, but let's get the tradition going.
It did feel like they were trying to establish like okay, every Star Trek show's got to do its naked episode. And,
it's a version that died with TNG, probably because it felt too, probably because it did feel too contrived, maybe, I guess, and maybe that's why they never tried it again.
I kind of would have liked, I guess we'll talk about it more later, but to have every show do a Tribble episode.
Well, DS9 does do a Tribble episode.
Yes.
Except for Voyager. There's never been a Tribble on Voyager, but I think they've appeared on... but does Picard have a Tribble anywhere? I don't think there's any Tribbles.
Next Generation doesn't have one.
TNG doesn't have Tribbles either, does it?
They do. No. Yeah, they do. And that episode, when the bow breaks in season 1, when the kids are getting abducted off of the Enterprise, there's like this one little kid playing with the Tribble.
Oh, I didn't remember
how to stop Tribbles from multiplying if that's happening. That's
weird Tribbles.
And there was a Tribble in Enterprise one time.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
I won't spoil what happens to it because I don't know if Starfleet boys watched that one.
I haven't seen that one. I don't think there's a Tribble in. Speaking of the Calvin timelines, which Boat Trek. Hello, welcome. Nice to see you there, PJ. Enough with the Kelvin. Enough. But there is a Tribble, obviously, in Into Darkness, and it's essential in solving the problem.
There's one in 09 too. Scotty and Keenser at their little base on Delta Vega. Scotty has a Tribble in a little cage.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Can we just say that? Did you guys notice that the Scotty trope was born in this episode?
Change the laws of physics.
Well, but then and he's also like he says a few of them. Ready to warp within half a second of your order. The Scotty trope is born. I just thought that was really cool.
Like exaggerating the time. In Next Generation, he'll confess to Geordi that you never tell a captain how long it's actually going to take. You always have to give him like 4 times when it actually will take. You notice like Scotty doesn't get infected this episode. And I think it's just because he's such an alcoholic that he's just drunk all the time anyways. So it didn't really have an effect on him. Like he's just used to being that drunk.
That's why McCoy and Scotty are not affected, right?
Yeah.
There you go. The hardened drinkers that they are. That's funny. I like that.
Something I think is worrisome in this episode is how easy it is for one man to take over the whole Enterprise. I mean, with like traditional ships on the water, it's never that easy to pirate a ship.
That's true. Riley just kind of
it's just one man could just easily if he goes kind of crazy.
Think he had the luck of the Irish.
Yes.
But his plan, like he basically went into engineering, says everybody's got to run up to the bridge, and everybody does, and then Riley takes over. It's so easy.
He's
Like,
just
wow.
It's all about authority. It's all about. You could tell that Riley's a well-liked member of the crew. I think it would be something shocking for him to do that, and I think I might actually fall for it as well. But it's true.
There's something I want to add about Riley, but I think I'll save that for Conscience of the King.
Oh, interesting. Very cool.
One last thing I want to say about the novelization. They have a really interesting sequence where, one of my favorite scenes in the episode is when Kirk snaps at Uhura, and Uhura snaps back at Kirk, and then they kind of like take a moment and they're like, "Hey, I'm sorry." It shows the relationship between those two characters. In the novelization, they don't have that at all. What happens is that Kirk snaps at Uhura, and Uhura kind of snaps back, and Kirk says, "You know what? We're not going to get anywhere anyways with this communication thing." So in the novelization, they've actually sealed everybody off. They've lowered the bulkheads, so everybody's isolated. So they actually can't get easily to sickbay or to engineering. Like if you're still behind the bulkheads, you're trapped there because they're trying to isolate the. They don't know what's going on, but they've just isolated everybody. So Kirk sends Uhura to use Morse code with a hammer to the bulkhead to get McCoy's attention and to find out what's going on in sickbay. And then she radios with the communicator back to the bridge, bypassing the whole communication problem. And they're using communicators and Morse code. It's really funny.
The novelization, I guess you have more time in a novelization. It's more than 48 minutes. So.
Yeah, it's really funny.
That would have been good to put on the screen because I think Uhura gets kind of shorthanded a lot with giving that character stuff to do, and that would have been a really cool way for her to. Yeah, I'm the communications officer. I'm the one who's going to be doing the Morse code stuff.
Right. Yeah, I thought it gave her more to do. Yeah.
Performance-wise, that moment is really touching, though. So I do like the way that ended up. But of course, that only is because we're informed with a huge amount of Star Trek after this. Like, I don't know if it was touching the first time you were seeing it, but certainly after you've watched a lot of Star Trek, seeing that like little moment between Uhura and Kirk is a lot more meaningful, I think. I like that. I also wondered, the performance. Oh gosh, that's what I keep focusing on in this episode. Is like I really love the exchange between Kirk and Spock, and I really felt, I don't know if it's just me because I'm biased, but there was a homoeroticism there. What did you think, Emma? Like, what did you think, Father? What did you think of her?
I can see it when he says like when I feel friendship for you, I feel like
it's like
and then Kirk slaps. That's right, he slaps him. That's great. Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't think that was ever intended, but the Kirk Spock shippers definitely would.
I was shipping hardcore. The shipping lanes were open during that scene for sure. I liked also when he shook Spock, like just like everything about that. I can watch that scene over and over again and not get tired of it. I feel like it's a really good scene, performance wise.
Yeah, there wasn't enough slapping on The Next Generation.
The original series, they always remember that Vulcans are so much stronger than humans, and I think all the other Star Trek shows kind of dropped the ball with that a lot.
That is true. Yeah, Emma was surprised when Kirk just goes like over the table and Spock slaps him. You're like, wow.
He's very strong.
Yeah, because Spock wasn't even. He was hardly trying. He was just like, boom, go away. Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
Talking about the other thing that kind of like struck me in the briefing room scene, that was like a really good briefing room scene, by the way. I feel like there was a lot of interesting stuff going on. Like people were starting to feel like Kirk was asking for the assessment and there wasn't like exactly the answers that he was looking for. And he says something like, that's why I'm calling it a briefing. I rely on your expertise and like knowing what your readiness status is. And of course, Scotty's the only one who answered. Everyone else is like not quite certain. And I just love, again, another trope was born, I think, in this episode that we see over and over in Star Trek, is that like intense briefing room sequence. What, Emma, are you softening to William Shatner and Kirk at all? Are you starting to like feel? I know you I know you have a tough time with the character, but with the performance mainly, right? Is it?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a good actor, and yeah, I mean, I enjoy watching him.
Oh,
I
good.
find him kind of annoying sometimes, and I mean, it's the episodes where he's like really womanizing that bother me most, I think.
We haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
We're getting there soon, though.
I know you're watching
that here. There's a little bit of misogyny, I think, just with the like his framing of like, oh, of course it's called a she because she like demands everything from my life and won't let me do anything else. It won't let me be my own man. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's pretty intense.
That's true. That's true.
Too, but
It's true. She won't let me have a life or something like that, he says.
Yeah, I think
I think it's interesting though, like Antonia comes back to mind because that's the last like real woman that we see Kirk with, right? Like ever. And like it is interesting that he finally finds like happiness with a woman when he is
does
not
because the idea was that he left her. Can I just say that I hate Star Trek Generations and everything that movie said about Kirk?
please go there, please.
Let's go there.
I think Generations is my least favorite Star Trek movie.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. Star Trek Erection is definitely the worst.
It's erection.
They run a close race in my book. They run a close race. But
okay. All right.
Insurrection doesn't undermine one of the most iconic Star Trek characters, and Generations does. So that kind of makes me hate Generations more.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know. There are things in Generations that I can watch and entertain me,
Mm-hmm.
but
Same here.
But Insurrection is unwatchable.
Insurrection is just boring.
It is very boring.
But nowhere in Insurrection do I ever want to like pull my hair out.
I mean, I'd rather watch the unfinished visual effects of the motion picture rather than Insurrection. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Wow.
But
have y'all covered those movies yet? Y'all have only done the first 5, right?
Yeah, we're hung up on 6. We haven't done 6 yet. Yeah.
We're doing a new format, a new experimental format for Star Trek 6, and the pandemic kind of disrupted that. So we'll get there eventually. I think. Wait, what's that? I have still a few.
Go ahead.
I still have a few points. I haven't gone through all my notes here. Do you guys?
It's his show, man, not yours.
Yeah. Thanks for. If you gotta go, you can give your rating, and I'll tell, and then we'll consider taking it into account. Can we just talk about the tapes for a second? I just feel like we have to talk about the tapes.
The tapes, the post-it pads.
So, like, this is the thing that, like, I think it's interesting because we're going to hear it. I'm sure we're going to hear it throughout the original series, but they got it wrong. Like, although the tapes that they're talking about are really interesting because they're these, like, they're actually what we call discs, right?
Floppy disks.
They're like, they're like floppy disks, right?
They use those in Discovery also. We see those on Discovery.
Would you have liked to have Discovery refer to them as tapes, or do you think it's a good thing that we don't say tapes in the Discovery era?
I mean, I don't think it matters because there could be like some form of tape in there that's just like really high tech compared to whatever we have now in the 21st century. But I also think even if it kind of breaks canon a little bit, I think Star Trek has an obligation to make everything seem more high tech than modern day. So I'm okay with them having to like update some of the technology just to make it look like 23rd century, kind of like those spray bottles you have in sick bay that just look like a Windex bottle. Like,
except I also actually, that's in my notes too. Funny enough, I took note of the angle of the spray, which is ideal for when you're holding and spraying because you want that slight tilt, and so the weight, distribution. And I was like, how come spray bottles don't have that tilt anymore? They're now like pretty head on. So like I would have liked. I think I like that design better. you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. That was a high-tech thing in the 60s. That was something like most people didn't have in their kitchen cabinet with their cleaning supplies. That was like a recently patented thing from Japan.
There were spray bottles. You had to pump them.
Yeah.
There was like a different
And they
thing.
were,
You had to pump
they
them
were like
and
reused,
turn
like
them.
you it was a reusable thing. It wasn't like a throwaway
exactly.
thing.
It was like metal. I actually had one. It wasn't vintage. It was like someone remade it, and I would use it to mist my succulents when I lived in Seattle. Uh, so, but I wish those spray bottles. Those are pretty cool spray bottles. But you're right. We never see those again. But the record tapes is what I guess they're actually called. What I liked about it is that what I noticed in this episode is that it gives you more than just visual data. Dr. McCoy in the briefing room scene says that he was able to extrapolate like information about the environment and like, so there's sensor data on the tapes as well, which I kind of liked. So that kind of like made them like much cooler than just like, you know, like how they are. And I think that is basically how digital technology works today. You can have layer upon layer of data on one thing. So if you take a video today, you can layer it with all kinds of other data about the environment, the conditions in which it was recorded. Like there's all kinds of things that sensors on a video camera, even on your phone knows what the temperature is when you're taking a video, what your GPS location is. There's like to a certain degree, we're doing that now. And I just thought that was really cool. I just the other thing I have here in my notes is going back to this. I didn't get a chance to talk about this, but I wanted to note Joey's perspective in the knife scene in the recreation room, and he's like talking about how like we pollute space, how we like do all these things, and like it kind of gave a glimpse to a side that you don't think about of the Federation and space travel in this time and like things like that. And I was wondering if you guys caught on to that and what you thought about that, and like, you know, if this kind of like contradicts this like idea of like, you know, the future's well placed, you know, like when I know he's like he's panicking and he's going into like a paranoid kind of state, but there must be some truth to what he's saying about like going out here. He's like, he remarks about how we can't even protect people. You have to have environmental systems, otherwise everyone freezes, and he's just like really torn up. And like, should humans, you know, he says, should man be out here, you know, but should humans be out here? And I thought that was so interesting, and it gave me like it kind of jostled my perspective of what I think of the Federation and Starfleet as.
I don't know if it's like an ugly truth behind the Federation, but it was more of like this fear, this dread of all these cosmic forces that are so much bigger and so mysterious and unknown. And yeah, maybe I should have like stayed back on the farm and not have voyaged out on these adventures. Maybe this isn't where I'm meant to be. Maybe no one is meant to be out here dealing with these things that we've only begun to comprehend. There's
a very anti-colonialist message there.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a valid way of looking at it. For me, it was kind of more in the again with that horror angle of things that we've talked about, which was common practice with science fiction in the time.
Another note I took was the surgery scene. I really love the presentation of technology there. Like they had the air mask, the ventilator mask, but it only had a tiny component to it, and that little tiny component could do everything that like a whole ventilator machine could do. And so I thought that was a really neat way of showing how like it looked like a regular like, you know, ventilator mask, but it had just a little tiny little capsule on it, and that did all the work that like a full ventilator, which we know are like these machines that are as tall as me today, you know. And so it's interesting, like I really like that aspect. And then I also loved, we didn't talk about it, but McCoy's lament with Kirk about losing losing Joe. You know, he wasn't able to save him, and you know, he can't figure it out. And I like that scene. I think Kirk is being unreasonable, but of course he's under, you know, a great deal of stress here. But he's like, Bones, I want the impossible checked out too. You know, like he's really hard on Bones here. But I feel like that's again another trope being born between McCoy and Kirk, where they have this like really passionate back and forth, where the two really challenge each other and push each other to like, go further than they thought was possible in their, in their professions, if you will, or their roles.
Well, I think we really see the Kirk as, when he's pushed against the wall, he just, he gambles it all. I mean, we've already seen it with Charlie X, and here, I mean, what they were trying to do, which is I guess it's a cold start of the warp engine, which Scotty was saying, I need 30 minutes. And Kirk's like, no, wait, maybe we can do it. There's a calculation or whatever. And he's really gambling with everybody's life on the Enterprise. He has no idea if it's really going to.
But he makes a really good point when he says, I know that there's only a 1 in 10,000 chance to do it, but we gotta
do it. Yeah.
Since we have everything to lose, why not just try the one thing? If we're gonna die anyways, try the one thing that might get us out of this. And that's like a really powerful thing, that under these circumstances of hopelessness, like that someone can still maintain that kind of like optimism, to me is like very interesting. And I feel like it's a very, it is Kirk in a nutshell, and I like that.
It is. It really embodies that line that he has in Star Trek 2, I don't like to lose.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
for sure. He doesn't believe in the no-win scenario.
He doesn't believe in the no-win scenario. There is no no-win scenario for him. There's got to be a way out. That's why when you get to Star Trek 2, and he's sitting in that captain's chair, and he's just powerless, like you really feel it, because this is the character that through episode after episode of the original series, you see him go up against the wall, and he finds a way to get out. He throws the big gamble. He's like, no, let's do this, and he always wins. The Corbite maneuver is another one. Is another classic one. Where, I mean, he's always the guy that finds a way to get out. And in Star Trek 2, you see him facing what he thinks is his Kubarashi Naru. Like, this is it. I can't get out of it. We're not going to make it. And he's just powerless in that seat in the captain's chair.
Yeah.
And
Going back to that scene in the rec room, I do love this conversation too. I thought it was a nice little touch on what we saw in the Man Trap, where Sulu, and Riley kind of goes over like, oh, you were trying to get me into botany earlier, and now you're trying to get me into fencing. So it's really a nice. That was a really nice moment and a tie-in there.
Do y'all think that Sulu kind of has a crush on Riley? Or
I did. I picked up again.
Like,
I might be shipping here, because but I definitely felt
shipping. Yeah.
When he's like, hey, let's go work out.
Let's go to the gym.
Right now? He's like, yeah, let's do it. Come on. It'll be fun.
I really thought it was funny. I thought it's funny knowing that George Takei is a homosexual, and like just like kind of like some of the things that I think of as stereotypes, like going to the gym is definitely like a gay kind of like stereotype. And I just thought it was kind of funny because I definitely don't think that stereotype existed at the time. So I wonder if it had any influence. Star Trek was very embraced by the homosexual, and it wasn't known as the LGBT plus community in this time, but like the homosexuals really loved Star Trek and Doctor Who, and there were a lot of like underground homosexual organizations and like subsets of fandom during this time where there was like a like a thing. And I think, like we said, like the Spirk thing and like the shipping and all that stuff was going on in the background, and I kind of love that. It makes me feel connected to Star Trek in a new way as a gay man, or as a gay person.
I got to talk about the bowling alley though.
Oh yeah, the bowling alley.
Why do we never see
We need to see the bowling
the
alley.
bowling alley on the Enterprise?
How is there a bowling alley on the station?
It's the Cetacean Ops of the original series.
Yes.
You only
we get the bowling alley finally is it Enterprise? Where don't we get it?
No.
What am I imagining? What's
I don't
going
know.
on here?
I blamed Obama because he got rid of the bowling alley in the White House, so somehow it's Obama's fault.
Thanks a lot, Obama.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Obama.
No, but I mean, I really want to see the bowling alley on the Enterprise. I would love to see Spock and Kirk bowling instead
Spock would
of
be so confused by bowling.
yeah, like instead of the chess game. Why can't we see the Star Trek crew bowling? That would be hilarious.
What do they have on lower decks? The squash court, which
I don't know. I've never seen that.
I think you would really enjoy Lower Decks, by the way. Just saying. Like, both of us, Father and I, are enjoying it, and we think you would too.
I'll stick to Robot Chicken.
You'll stick to what?
Robot Chicken.
Star Trek comedy has come home, Doctor. Come on. Be tolerant.
If my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a wheelbarrow.
We are almost at that time. I think I covered everything I wanted to say in my notes. Audience, if you have any last minute questions, please let us know. I guess we will take it out by doing some ratings here, and I'll go first, as is per tradition, because no one believes my ratings if I do it afterwards. I give that episode like an 8. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good episode.
I was going to give it a 7.
That's cool. It's pretty high.
Yeah.
And here we go. How many nakeds does this episode have?
How about you?
I was gonna give it a 9.
Oh wow!
Woo!
Very good.
Well, yeah.
I don't know why you guys are rating it lower. It's great. You get to see like.
Well,
all these
I
different
guess
sides
I'm
of different
thinking
characters.
because, like, I don't know, like for
Them
me,
singing, Spock breaking down, Spock slapping Kirk across a room, all in one episode.
well, it's a 9 for you. It's a 7 for you.
She just likes it because Kirk is getting slapped around.
Yeah,
Well, Spock got
that's
slapped
right,
around too,
yeah.
right?
They're both
Everyone
getting
got slapped around.
Those are proportional slaps, though. A Spock slap is worth 100 Kirk slaps.
Yes.
All right,
Good
that's
to
your
know.
that's how you have to give your rating. How many slaps? How many Kirk slaps and how many Spock slaps does this episode?
So I will give this episode 7 bowling pins on the Enterprise bowling alley.
There we go. Yes.
I'm gonna actually raise my rating to to an 8.5.
Mine is going to a 6.47.
No.
we do have some but basically this episode rates high, and I agree. I think the one thing that prevented me from giving it a 9, if I have to defend my rating, which none of us ever have to on this show, but but I think that, like, I agree that just it is I love the episode. I like the episode a lot. But when I think about like rewatchability, other than the scenes between Kirk and Spock, and like that whole, exchange between them, like, I'm like, oh, I've seen it once, I'm good. I don't have to go back to it over and over. And so that's what I always kind of like ding episodes on, is will I go back and just rewatch it for fun? And I'm not sure I would go back and rewatch this one for fun. We got
Why not? Surprising.
Great day up in the house.
I love that. Why is George Takei oblivious to the gay subtext of his character and so resistive to the Kelvin Sulu? I don't know what the current situation with that is, but I can speak to you as someone who, has been in that kind of like mindset before. It's like, I think my take on it is that George Takei was coming from a perspective of honoring what the original intention was, and I don't believe George Takei was being fully sensitive to like why it's important that Sulu is gay in the Kelvin films, but at the same time, I don't know that Gene Roddenberry wrote that subtext in or any of the writers wrote that subtext in intentionally. I think people expressed friendship in a very different way in the 60s, and even 20 years ago. I think our own ideas of what friendship is and stuff like that has evolved. And so I could see kind of why George Takei died on that hill. But I'd love to know what his current perspective is, because that was a while ago, like where that whole controversy
I think
that was
to Star Trek Beyond. But can I add something to that?
Please, of course.
And this is just coming from. I mean, like I don't really feel like I'm qualified to talk about what it's like to approach that perspective but from a strictly like continuity perspective of like, well, how does this all work? Like in universe, in canon, is Sulu gay or not, or is he gay in one timeline or not in the other? I just headcanon that Mr. Sulu is bi, and he likes to play for both teams. And if you just look at it that way, it explains everything. That's why, like, Mirror Universe Sulu was trying to get sweet on Uhura, or why in Star Trek V he was impressed by the Klingon lady, Virix, or I can't remember her name right now or whatever. But and also like why I think he might have been wanting to go work out with Riley in this episode. So it's just, yeah, Sulu is bi. Eventually he has a husband and their daughter Demora and all of that stuff. That's just how I look at it from a continuity.
I like that take a lot. Any comment on that, Humbert or Emma?
I like that take too. I haven't heard George Takei's comments on his character in the Calvin timeline, but I mean, I get the idea that just because George Takei is gay, like, you shouldn't assume his character, like, that he performed back in the 60s is gay. That doesn't really make sense. And maybe that discredits the actor a bit, like, he can't play a straight character. Like, obviously we should be able to say that gay characters can play straight, and we do have that, thankfully. Yeah.
Very nice. We got a couple of ratings from the audience. So Stress Free K 7.26. Robbie gives it an 8 out of 10. And then Daniel gave it a 9 as well.
I
there
agree
are
with
some
Daniel's
moments
comments.
drunkenness that kind of stretch my disbelief a little bit. And then we got Chalk Apocalypse. Welcome to the chat. I'm glad you were here listening. I give it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 LLAPs. 6 of these because of how much security was non-existent and clueless.
Yeah, that is true.
That is
I
true.
agree with that comment.
All right, very cool. I think that was a good discussion for this episode. I feel like we got everything. Audience, let us know if in the comments. Thanks for being here live with us. We really loved your participation. Just before we go out, please go visit Text Trek and check out everything that's going on there. We had our another successful TG. Wait, thank the great bird of the galaxy. It's Friday is what we're calling it.
TTGBOGIF.
What?
Thank God.
Oh, that's funny. That's like the old ABC Friday night thing.
Exactly. That's what we're doing.
I'm not
See?
sure if we should call it that, or if we should change it to like another Star Trek D. Like, should it be Thank Q, it's Friday?
Thank you. It's Friday.
Thank you. It's Friday. It sounds good.
TQIF. That's not easier. That's easier, right? Should we do that?
I think so. TQIF.
TQIF.
My question:
TQIF.
Who's got the full house time slot?
That would be Fathery, I think, because it's earlier.
Yeah, I'm the opener.
What was the late night show on ABC that was a little bit more disorganized?
Well, what was like for Full House? They had Step by Step. They had Coach. Wasn't Coach on there?
We're Coach. We're the Starfleet Boys. The Coach.
That was the late one, I think.
Yeah, that's like...
Now I have to confess, I always watched Fox. I always watched Briscoe County Jr. and X-Files.
Nice.
And Star Trek, the original Star Trek was on Fridays, as a matter of fact.
Was it? It was
third
Friday
season.
nights?
Third seasons, they dumped
Star
Trek on Friday when they knew nobody was going to watch it.
Yeah. And they did the same thing in Enterprise in season 4. They moved it to the Friday night kill slot, is what they call it.
This is actually way
That's
more
right,
appropriate for TGIF Starfleet Boy, which TQIF Starfleet Boy, which Perfect Strangers. It is kind of like
Perfect Strangers. Oh my God.
I'm 100% Balky Bartakamus and Father's Larry Appleton. Cousin Larry Appleton. Anyway, so tune in. So thanks for tuning in, guys. We had another great one. The real Ketwalski made an appearance on our show, and we talked to him a little bit about what's going on in the Star Trek universe currently, and that was a lot of fun. And then, of course, we talked about role-playing games and all kinds of things. But definitely go check out Text Trek, because that was so much fun watching your review with Brian and PJ of Star Trek Lower Decks second episode, Envoys. So definitely check that out. And then tonight at 6 p.m., I'm going to be on Continuum Trek's channel doing a second episode of A Question of Trek, which is a trivia kind of game show that he has set up. And I think Continuum Trek may have sorted out some of the sound problems that he was having last time. So I think this one will be a lot. Did you guys watch it? I think you guys
tried. We tried to watch it, but we couldn't hear the questions. We had a great difficulty with your microphone was great, but his microphone was not.
Well, I think he's figured it out, and hopefully, so tonight will be a better experience for everyone in the audience. And if not, maybe we can do a project where we put subtitles on and re-upload that video so that future audience members can enjoy it, because I thought it was a lot of fun. And I'll be there with Trek Cat. I think we're both still team captains. I'm not sure. There was some cryptic thing on Twitter that Continuum Trek said about surprises, so I'm not sure what's going to happen, but that's the fun of that show. So. What's that?
Ominous, isn't it?
What was it?
So that might be a little ominous, right?
It might be a little ominous. I don't know. Well, I failed. My team lost, although Scarlet Trekkie was really awesome. So the Scarlet Pimpernels, which as we came to be known later, we failed. So maybe he's demoting me. I don't know. We'll find out what happens, but you'll have to go and tune in. But anyways, thank you so much, audience. Thank you so much, Emma and the Doctor. Thank you, Fathery. Everybody live long and prosper, and we'll see you over there. You. We'll see you next time.